It's Monday, November 6th, 2023. This is the Roqe Roundtable. Hi there, welcome to the Roqe Roundtable. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. Hello to you from Toronto, Canada. Salam dostan aziz, durud bar shoma. This is conversations from, to, and about the Iranian diaspora and beyond. It's the Monday Roundtable. We're no longer calling this the bonus, the bonus roundtable, the bonus show. In fact, for a while, we were adding a 0.5. Mm-hmm. We were like, it's episode 292.5.
Yeah.
It was the bonus Monday. But once you start doing it every Monday,
it's no longer bonus.
Raha June, Pegah June, then it doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. So this is episode 294 of Roqe, the Monday Roundtable.
Okay.
All right. In the studio, she's our regular Roqe Roundtable specialist and a producer for us here, Smart Pegah.
Woo.
Smart Pegah Ganji.
Hello.
Also in the studio, an Iranian Canadian marketing strategist. I was trying to say it really fast. Also in the studio, an Iranian Canadian marketing strategist and designer who's been very active in the Iranian community, especially during the uprising of the last year. The Triple R, Resonant Raha Ru.
Ooh. Are we gonna stick with that?
Resonant Raha.
You've got your nickname.
The Triple R.
I was actually going to ask today. Am I going to get a nickname?
Triple R is that's
a good one.
Superhero stuff.
Yeah.
The Triple R. I could see, you've got a cape and you've got a shirt with 3 R's on
Next Halloween.
Yes.
She's already got her costume. See, she's one of those Halloween people.
She's so into Halloween. We talked about that last time.
And you guys are the other kind of Halloween people. What are you as myself?
Although I believe in ghosts and atrocity. Well, I don't want to say atrocities. Whoops. The world is on fire. Don't say atrocity.
That's all we're thinking
I believe in horrible things that can happen based on monsters and ghosts, because we've had quite a day. It's now the early evening.
Oh, yes.
We usually record in the late afternoon, but the last few hours have been a scramble to get a new mixing board, because suddenly the microphones weren't working, and it turned out it was a mixing board. And Methodical Kaveh and Savvy Roham and Resonant Raha, everybody was running around trying to find a mixing board.
Resonant Raha is my new favorite nickname.
It means you resonate.
Okay.
Is that so bad?
No, it's fine.
Not to be confused with resident.
Yeah.
Like
I heard resident. That's why I was like...
It does sound a bit like that, yeah. I didn't think that through. The first time I said it, I was like, Resident Raha? She's are you a resident? I mean, you are,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
no, I'm not here illegally.
You are resonant. Resonant
Resonant,
Raha.
Okay.
So this is the roundtable. Now, on I should say that we had a show that we're getting a fair bit of reaction to on last Thursday, called "The World Is on Fire." I said on the show that I think it's an incredibly uncreative title that I came up with for that episode, but perhaps nonetheless apt, because it does feel like even people I saw Ghormeh Sabzi, the veteran Iranian American journalist, she did a post. She had actually been in some ill health, and it was great to see Ghormeh back, in terms of, and she did this post a few days ago just saying, in my whole life, I think she's probably in her late 70s or early 80s. Right. She said, I don't remember a time in history where this much nonsense was going on in the world, this much sadness, this much atrocity, this much... So we had this episode, The World Is on Fire. Hadi Qaemi from the Center for Human Rights joined us. And we had to talk about serious issues. Armita dying in Iran. Nasrin Sotoudeh, who continues to be imprisoned now for the most ridiculous of reasons, attending a funeral, the stuff going on in Iran. Before that, the week before, we had Sonita Alizadeh, the activist and rapper, talking about the plight of Afghans in Iran, and now Afghans in general. I mean, because they're being deported from Pakistan too. Speaking of humanitarian crises, there's more than just one place where that's happening. And another place that's happening is on the border of Pakistan and Afghanistan, where all of these Afghans are being pushed back into Afghanistan, and that happening simultaneously in Iran. It's it's a horrific situation. The week before that, Farshad Montaghi, the great anchor from Manitoba that we love so much, but it was quite a serious conversation. So we've been talking about the fact that, can we do some lighter stuff? Can we have some fun? The world won't let it happen.
Exactly.
What are we supposed to do?
As you're listing these things, I'm like, where are we going? What's happening?
I mean, don't get me started on the referee situation in the Premier League with Arsenal.
Where's our bell?
Being robbed.
Where's our Arsenal bell?
Each show has to have an Arsenal reference.
We really need a bell.
And there was the
I'm
one. Well, get a
ordering one
bell.
off of Amazon.
Get a bell. You don't have to order one. You can, order one.
Yeah.
Pegah, you see, this is privilege.
Yes.
I'm going to order one from Amazon. Maybe you could find a bell. You could make a bell. You could take a little, look at this.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
That works.
Anyway, we got robbed on the weekend.
Okay.
With the Newcastle game. You don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I have no clue. But I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was the
You
case.
should know at this point.
I know.
You might have. You should just watch the
At
Arsenal
this
game
point,
so
I
you know
should
what
just
I'm
become a
talking
fan.
about.
I
Just
feel,
because.
Yeah, I feel like I should do the same.
Yeah.
Football.
I should just talk to my dad and be like, what happened? Because he
Sure.
follows.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, he's a wise and interesting man. Now, this, speaking of trying to do things in a little bit more of a, we can accept that the world is doom and gloom, and even today we're going to talk about some difficult stuff because we can't do a roundtable without addressing some of what's going on in the world. But in an effort to, but there's a lot of other stuff, other things that make up our lives and what we're interested in. So as an effort to engage in some other kind of talk, this Thursday we're doing an episode that we've been meaning to do for a while, and it is about tea.
Yes.
Nom nom.
You made a noise with your mouth.
Yeah, I just wanted to add some ambience to that. But
That's resident Raha. That's it.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm sipping tea.
Thank you for your sound effects. Strange.
You know that scene from Titanic where everyone's drowning, but there's this quartet of violins, and they're like,
Yeah.
let's play
It's
while we
beautiful.
can. I feel like that's us right now. The world is on fire, but we're trying to
What a horrible,
lighten it up.
and we're going down with the ship.
The visual
Everybody
just
is.
now.
I'm sorry. That's just the scene that came
That's
to
horrible.
mind.
As long as I can be Rose, I don't mind it.
Maybe
The
they
only one
survived.
who
You never
survived.
I
know.
want to be Rose. Yeah.
Maybe
She
they
wants to be the
survived.
only person who survived. Okay, we got it.
Tea. We're going to talk about tea and Iranian obsession. Now, first of all, I should say my guest is going to be a self-described tea expert, but anybody who knows him knows that he is indeed obsessed with tea. The making of the tea, what goes into the tea, the kind of tea, the hour that he drinks his tea,
wow.
which is constantly. Oh yeah, no, he has a whole thing, and he actually did a documentary on it for the BBC at one point. Behzad Bulur is going to be joining me on Thursday, our friendly neighborhood bearded broadcaster, and to talk about tea, all things tea, and the fact that it is this Iranian obsession. And I'm going to actually ask the audience some questions in the next couple of days leading up to this episode so that I can post them to Behzad on Thursday. So you want to tune in for this on Thursday. But here's in my research so far, and we've done a few episodes when we were doing our contemporary history of Iran. We were doing some episodes on opiates and things that Iranians have been addicted to through the centuries, and tea and different liquids and drugs and things like that were talked about. I mean, for
Right.
example, opium, which was used for medicinal purposes, not for recreational purposes until only 50 years ago. Well, it seems like tea, there's a similar relationship with tea, where tea 500, 600 years ago when it came to Iran was initially a medicinal drink. It was what you used for some kind of medical purpose. It wasn't till much later that it becomes recreational. And what's fascinating to me, and I wanted to obviously bring this up with Behzad on Thursday, but I just assumed that tea would go way back,
Right.
centuries and centuries, thousands and thousands of years back with Iranians, because because everything with tea is like, it really is an obsession. All day when you wake up, you have tea, and
exactly.
then so it turns out Iranians were coffee drinkers.
Oh,
Iranians, you knew this?
I knew this.
Oh,
I did not know this.
Resonant Raha.
See?
They were coffee drinkers. Our ancestors were coffee drinkers for most of history until only fucking 150 years ago.
Qahwa Turk. Have you ever had qahwa Turk? Like, you know how we have coffee in the Turkish way? That used to be the way we would have coffee.
Qahwa Turk.
Qahwa Turk.
Interesting.
I had a little qahwa Turk on my shreddies. Anyway, that is true.
Your shreddy?
I don't know. I was trying. That is true. Iranians were coffee drinkers, and then for a number of reasons, some of which economic, tea becomes the standard, and tea becomes now the obsession. And if you had asked me, certainly in our family, and I'm talking about my extended family, it's tea. I felt like I was a rebel bucking the trend when I started becoming a coffee drinker, So, tea and Iranian obsession. Now, to kick off our roundtable, I thought I would ask you two a question that I'm going to put, I'll put it on Instagram or something in the next couple of days as we lead up to this episode. Because one of the things I've also learned about the relationship between Iranians and tea, obsessive as it may be, is that Iranians consider tea to be black tea, right? Yeah. Now, there's all kinds of specifications, like how dark does it need to be, what kind of tea leaves, how are we, chaturi by dam konim, all that stuff, right? What's the temperature,
the type of glass you bring it
type
in,
of glass, the estecania, all of that. All of
what
that.
are you serving? We'll
get to all of that. But most importantly, it's for any non-Iranians listening, or people who aren't obsessed for some reason. When we say tea, would you like some chai? Like if you were to go to a restaurant, a Persian restaurant, and they say at the end, "Oh, do you want some tea?" They're really only talking about one kind of tea.
That's it, yeah.
And if it's a different kind of tea, it may invite some controversy, right?
Yeah.
This is going to be a problem.
Yes.
So, my question, is it improper? Because I feel like the rest of the world, is more open to a diversity of teas.
Yes.
Certainly, the North American health kick is herbal teas. Sleep well with chamomile, mint, whatever. We know in different parts of the world, parts of Asia, green tea, for example, is a big deal. Is it improper to serve herbal tea at the end of a Persian meal? In other words, if you were having a mahmouni,
without a doubt,
and hang on, if you were having a mahmouni, because I know there's going to be people who immediately answer and go, of course you can, serve whatever you want. No, really though, if you're having a mahmouni and you've just served your fesenjun, your khoresh badamjun, and everybody's eating it, and then would anybody like tea? And then you fucking bring some jasmine tea. You bring some mint, lilac, lavender tea.
You're gonna get so many looks.
What is going? Yeah. So the question is, I know it's not. We're talking about social norms, cultural norms. We're not talking about nobody's going to get arrested for bringing the wrong kind of tea. But is it improper to serve herbal tea at the end of a Persian meal? Pegah.
Yes.
All right.
Without any hesitation.
Okay.
And
And why is that?
Because I think it's also a cultural thing. Like, I'll speak, I don't know. I look at the way I was brought up. So tea actually has a huge part in my life, like many other Iranians. But, from as I was probably 3, 4, that sort of thing. I remember my grandfather and I would wake up and have breakfast together, and he would make me chai shirin. That was the big thing, was I got to spend time with him and have breakfast, and I looked forward to having chai shirin with him every single morning. And now
Chai shirin is like, I'm guessing, sweet tea.
yeah,
Yes.
it's so it's basically tea with either
band?
sugar or
Yeah.
nabot, one or the other,
yeah.
whichever. And so this would be our breakfast ritual. And so now, 30 some odd years later, I still look forward to that. And that's still this nostalgic kind of feeling.
And that doesn't work so well with chamomile tea.
no, not at
No.
all. It just tastes completely
The
different.
look on your face.
Yeah.
All
I was
right.
like,
Well, that's
no
the
way.
answer I wanted. I wanted a stubborn,
Yeah.
kind of intolerant Iranian
Now,
answer.
I will say that when I'm
Yes.
sick, I have peppermint tea.
All right.
Yeah.
But if when you're sick, shouldn't you be having the tea with nabot? Isn't that the whole point?
No, that's
you
for
should have
stomach aches.
ginger. Oh,
that's
I
for
mean,
stomach ache.
I mean,
All
when
right.
I have a cold, I have I'll have peppermint tea.
Yeah.
Is it improper to serve herbal tea at the end of a Persian meal? Resident Raha.
Yes. You can't do that.
I like how we all know how ridiculous this is.
Yeah.
But yes, go ahead.
No, I don't think you can, because as soon as you do that, it's no longer a Persian meal or a Persian party. I mean, you can, but you have to apologize to all your guests and be like, "I'm sorry, I don't have any black tea or any Persian."
We are suddenly in whiteface. We're suddenly acting Sefid or something.
Yeah, yeah. But I think
What about something like green tea, though? I mean,
green tea is also a very small part of our culture, because these two types of tea were grow and are harvested in Iran, but
cultivated.
yeah, cultivated. But other types of tea are not really available, and I think historically that's why black tea has become so prominent and everybody knows them, and it's become ingrained in our culture. Because, as you said, can you have chamomile tea with like sugar?
Nabot, like-
Ew, no.
And honestly, isn't tea like by definition? I think there's only specific colors that constitute as tea. Like when you're referring
See,
to like
this is
peppermint.
ridiculous.
No, I'm
No,
serious.
yeah.
No, this is actually a definition thing. Like when you're talking about jasmine or whatever, those are herbal.
Ginger,
like we
lavender,
call them
yeah.
herbal teas, but really they're not teas, because tea leaves are only of certain colors.
Oh.
That one thing I know about tea.
Do you know where tea is cultivated in Iran?
Yeah.
Well, no, hang on. You
no.
seem to know these things. I'm asking Smart Pegah.
No, I really
Smart
don't.
Pegah. The North.
I could have guessed that.
Yeah. And it's, in fact, see, this is so interesting to me. It's interesting that tea only began being cultivated and only became a big thing in Iran 150 years ago. It's really not that long ago.
Right.
Given the part of the world, this is like, this ain't the new world. This is, only 150 years ago. And it has become such a big deal. I think Iranians are the second highest per capita drinkers of tea in the world, or
Wow.
like way up there. And 92% of the tea that is drunk in Iran is imported.
Yeah.
Like, in other words, can't keep up with the demand up in Mazandaran or wherever it is in the north that they're making it.
Interesting.
Yeah, they can't. So there's such a hunger for this tea that it is imported in, and and so what's funny to me is, and I kind of love this about there's things I sort of love about being Iranian, our Iranian background, and we really are kind of obsessive. I mean, how in that short history of 150 years or whatever it is, even less than that, we can be this specific about the kind of tea, like so that a fun question thrown out there is answered seriously. No,
Yes, of course.
of course it has to be black tea, and it has to be this temperature, and it has to look like
We
this.
know what we like, all right?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
It's historical and it's cultural, and if you do it differently, then it loses its essence, right?
And I feel like we have such nice ways of presenting it, and we have such nice rituals,
Oh yeah.
Involved with our drinking tea. And I think part of it is also, the manner in which we do it. That's so beautiful.
I happen to know Behzad, who's coming on, Behzad Balur on Thursday. I know he is so particular, OCD, obsessive, whatever about his tea, that I saw him say at one point that, like, how sometimes you'll put rose petals or rose water or something like that? No. He's having none of that. Nonsense.
So funny.
That's not part of the tea.
See, I completely understand that, because in our family, my grandfather will only allow certain people in our family to make him tea.
Whoa.
Yeah. My sister
Chai shirin?
and my dad. are the only two people in our family who,
Wow.
yeah.
You don't make the cut.
Nope, I do not.
And why is that?
I'm his favorite, and yet I don't make the cut.
You don't know how to make the tea.
Apparently not.
Okay,
Not
the
the
way
way
he
that
wants
not
it.
the way that he
you
wants.
can't learn how to make the tea?
I've tried. I swear, it's just one of those things.
You might have to downgrade your monikers. Smart Pegah doesn't know how to.
Smart Pegah minus
Minus
tea.
tea. Yeah.
no tea.
That's exactly it.
Speaking of Iranian cuisine, the second thing on the roundtable I wanted to talk about. We got 4 items today. This one, just a personal story. Now I haven't told you this story because it's not. It's really kind of silly, but I think that it is part of our reality as Iranians. Ghormeh Sabzi. What?
I don't like Ghormeh.
You don't like Ghormeh
I
Sabzi?
love
No.
Ghormeh Sabzi.
Okay, this is interesting.
It's my
I
least
wasn't- why-
favorite
I wasn't-
Iranian food.
I was not
Why?
anticipating this.
Yeah.
Well, my argument was going to be, my thesis was going to be, we love Ghormeh Sabzi, not so much the after scent,
Oh, not at all.
right?
Terrible.
Now, so I love Ghormeh Sabzi. So I go to my mom's place about a week and a half ago. And it was and I always have to, I'm always trying to manage my mom, you know, because I don't want her to, if I say I'm coming over, and usually on the weekend, for sure I'm going to come there, and I know that she's going to pazirai,
Of
you know,
course.
and she really puts too much effort in and, you know, makes a lot of food for me and all this.
Persian mom love.
So it's the best. Tabrizi mom, amazing
Wow.
cook, the best, right? It doesn't get better. But I don't want her to do all
Yeah.
that. So I was almost hostile. I said, I'm only coming for a little bit. I'll come for some chai.
Yeah.
None of that herbal stuff.
None of that herbal stuff.
Come on, we're gonna
Some real chai.
We'll have some chai, but I'm not. You know, please don't make anything.
زحمت ننداز خودت.
زحمت نکش. I even زحمت چی؟
زحمت تو زحمت ننداز خودتو.
خب آفرین. Yeah, and I.
آفرین.
You're learning, Resident Raha. Thank you.
You can take some pointers from Jian on the Farsi level.
Oh man.
زحمت ننداز خودت. Keep going.
Isn't it Zahman Nakesh?
Both work.
All right. Yeah.
You know, there are multiple
Where
ways of
was
saying
I
stuff.
before
You
I
were
was
saying
interrupted
that
by
you were
this
going
Persian?
To have some wonderful chai with your
Right,
mom.
right. I even lied to her, a fib, a little, you know, and I said,
You lied to your mom?
I have plans for dinner, so that she wouldn't make the dinner, you know.
Right.
Nonetheless, as I'm leaving, she hands me a bag, you know, of stuff. And she said, oh, I just made this. This was nothing. I just, you know, I had some extra, like it's like
Right.
warm from being made, you know. So, and it was rice. And then in a second Tupperware, there was one Tupperware container of rice and another one of Ghormeh Sabzi.
And now everything in your house.
No,
smells
hang
like
on.
Ghormeh
Oh, no, hang on. Now, and she knows I love Ghormeh Sabzi. you know.
Right.
And so, do you know those? First of all, are you familiar? This is like, I don't know. Do you know those Tupperware things that have the red top? They're glass and they
Yeah,
have the
yeah,
red
yeah.
top.
With the snap
Pyrex.
closures?
The snap?
Yeah.
No, not snap. Not the snap. It's called. It's a brand. It's
Pyrex.
no, it's a brand called Anchor or something. But anyway, it's glass.
Okay.
They're like glass. This is probably so specific to
Yeah.
Canada. But anyway, it's this glass thing, and then there's like a red plastic top. Anyway, the plastic tops tend to break,
Okay.
and so you're just left with and you have to keep replacing the tops, right?
Yeah,
And so recently my mom had said, if you find any of these tops anywhere, and I had actually brought some, nonetheless she had put the Ghormeh Sabzi in a different kind of container where she'd put like foil and cellophane and stuff over top of it and the lid, and she always says
Protective measures we must take
listen,
with Ghormeh
in the
Sabzi.
same way that she says lucht naro birun,
Right.
when I'm fully clothed with a jacket on, Cherob lucht rafti, why are you naked, you know.
Right.
She will say, you know, or naro tu aftab siach shudi, you know, don't go in the sun, you've become, she always says, be careful with this, it's going to spill, you
Right.
know, when it's like in a hermetically sealed Tupperware thing. So she said it again. Oh, be careful. Okay, Bob, yeah, sure, fine, you know. I didn't really listen to it. Okay, thank you for the Ghormeh Sabzi. And I'm hostile because I've said, I told you not to make anything. And now why are you taurofing with me and making me this food? So then I take it and I've got Oogie with me, you know, the spiritual leader of Roqe
course.
Media, the French bulldog. Yeah. So Oogie goes into the back of the car, and then I put these two things in the back seat, you know, the containers in the bag, and I start to drive, and the two Tupperware containers, both of which are glass, are clinking. They're hitting each other.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, and I noticed like Oogie's bothered by this too. So I kind of, without properly thinking, wave my hand in the back to knock one of them, and I knock it over, and the Ghormeh Sabzi juice spills into the car.
You got to sell your car.
Yep.
That's it.
I'm telling you.
It's done.
This is, I mean, I don't want to use the word terrorism, but this Ghormeh Sabzi, this is, I mean, it was a nightmare. First of all, like,
Every time you go to your car now, you have a meal of.
oh my God, do you? First of all,
Yeah.
there's no. It's going to be about 6 months before I can invite a non-Iranian into the car,
Yeah.
because they'll be terrified. Like, what is happening
What
in this
happened in
car?
your
What is
car?
the? I can't get rid of it. I can't get rid of the Ghormeh Sabzi smell. I mean, I've used Lysol. I mean,
No,
I've used.
nothing works.
There's.
There's nothing that will work.
It is such a, and it's so funny because I love it so much, Ghormeh Sabzi, but you know, like, you know how we don't like to think of ourselves sometimes, Iranians, as ethnic. You know, it is such an ethnic thing. This smell, like this,
It's so Persian.
It's so
It's
Persian.
just-
Like it's
See,
so.
this is
it's
part
so, like
of
I just
why-
know some person
Yeah.
getting in the car would be like, well, they might not even say anything, but be like, wow, this guy is really ethnic. You know, listen, look at what he's got there, and I don't know how to clean it.
You
I don't know what to
can't.
do.
I have a
I'm
business
telling you, you
idea
can't.
about this. I have a business. You know how there are like specific car wash places where you can take your car to clean the skunk stuff?
If you can get the
We
scent of Ghormeh Sabzi
If
out,
you're
you've got
looking
a
for a
successful
business
I
idea,
have been
you
able
need
to
to
clean
start a
Oogie
car
from a skunk. I've been able to deal with that. I can't get rid of this Ghormeh Sabzi. I've tried everything. I tried,
We
you
need
know.
professional Ghormeh Sabzi cleaners if you're looking for a business idea.
I even had some bags and things that were like in the back of the car, nowhere near this.
No,
I thought maybe the
everything-
juice had hit
everything
them. I
smells.
washed the bags. I did everything. It's still the car's a write-off. The car is.
I told you, you got
it's
to
a-
sell your car.
I
That's
can't.
it.
Nobody will buy
To a
it. I mean, it's
Persian.
it's a Ghormeh Sabzi car.
You got to sell it to a Ghormeh Sabzi connoisseur.
I have to sell it to a Ghormeh Sabzi maker that
Yeah.
just like delivers Ghormeh Sabzi, so
Yeah.
it just smells like
See,
that already.
this is part of why I don't like Ghormeh Sabzi.
Shambalile.
There's so much scent associated with it.
That's-
you're
that's it.
not a good trial case then, because you're not a good case study because you already don't like it.
No, I don't like it because of that smell.
But what's
Really?
what's weird
Yeah,
is
I can't stand it.
well, because I was going to say I can't necessarily think of another food of any type, of any extraction where we love the taste of it so much, but don't like the odor.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people. I mean, you know, I've had people say, because I like making Ghormeh Sabzi in the house,
Yeah.
and they say, "Oh, you do, huh? Well, you make Ghormeh Sabzi at home?" And yeah, why not? Because your house smells like it for the next 2
For
weeks,
the next,
right? And it's
I
true.
wish just 2 weeks.
Don't make it with shambalile. That's
But
the
then it
thing.
doesn't taste
No,
like
no.
Ghormeh
No,
Sabzi.
no, a little bit.
No. I'm
It's
very
either
particular about
authentic
my
or it's
Ghormeh
not.
Sabzi.
About your shambali.
Sure. Listen, you can't. But anyway, the car's a nightmare. I don't know what to do. Even I don't want to get in my car, and you know.
Burn it.
I
How
mean,
does Oogie react to the smell?
oh, that's a good question.
I'd be curious to know.
Yeah, I think he might fancy it. He's not.
Okay.
Yeah, anything that vaguely has the smell of food, Oogie's good with. Yeah, but this, I mean, if anyone has any suggestions of what you do with this,
Oh, if something works, I'd love to know.
it's kind of like it's like it's like one of those things where, you know, something that happens in your life where you go, oh man, this is going to take months.
Yep.
Months is like it's like you know, a really bad, you know, you're breaking a limb really badly or something. You know, just gonna be in a cast for a while. Like this Ghormeh Sabzi, I mean. The car is I don't know. I've had a couple of people suggested just leave your car outside and open all the windows and doors. Just leave it for a while.
White eggs. Now you know why Persian moms love their white eggs, right?
The-
You know,
the-
white,
Bleach?
you know, like bleach. Yeah, white eggs. Wish me I'm a Farsi. They
Bleach?
call it bleach is white eggs in
I
Farsi.
gotta bleach my car. It's a black car.
Your seats are going to be all sorts of, you know.
Stay.
Get
I
creative.
don't know what to do. And the worst part is that my mom warned me.
Yeah.
She was like, "Be careful." And I was like,
This is what happens when you don't
it's not
listen to your
gonna.
mom.
Blah, blah,
Is she
blah, blah.
now killing you with I told you so?
No, I think she feels bad because I can't drive anywhere.
She didn't say I told you so?
I'm walking to work.
Moms,
it takes me
Persian
hours
moms
to walk.
live on I told you so
Nah,
moments.
my mom's so cool. No, my mom's much more passive aggressive than that. She won't. She would never directly say "I told you so." She'll say, "Oh, so you." No. It'll be much more subtle. It'll be like, "Oh, so you didn't keep it in the bag, as I said." Like it'll be like that, Like it'll just be like a question. "Oh, you're wearing those boots again."
Yeah.
And it's like, why don't you just say you don't like the boots? No. I'm just.
No, my mom is very direct. When I wore my costume, which was a phoenix.
Oh, right.
I sent her a photo and she was like, "What is this? An ugly crow?" She called me like
an ugly crow.
Something like that. I was like, Mom. She was joking, obviously. My mom is.
All right. So anyway, I mean, if anybody, info@roqemedia.com, you give me the info. Or post somewhere on one of our platforms if you have some sort of magical formula for the Ghormeh Sabzi. It really is a business idea, though.
Yeah.
How to get rid of it's a very specific.
Open a car wash or a wash of whatever sort.
As branded Ghormeh Sabzi.
Ghormeh Sabzi cleaners. Ghormeh Sabzi cleaners.
It would take off.
Beautiful.
We have enough Iranians in the city.
Can we let's make an awkward turn into serious stuff? Not that wasn't serious.
That's very serious.
Because it's my current issue with my car. But let's talk about what's going on. First of all, there's a big issue I want to talk about that has to do with what's going on in the world. But before we get there was news today about Narges Mohammadi. And just because we've talked about her recently a couple of times, I thought we would roundtable her a little bit because she's gone on a hunger strike.
She has.
This is the journalist who is detained in Evin prison currently in Iran.
Who was most recently awarded the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yes. Affarin. To her and you. Yeah.
Thank you. So like you mentioned, we just heard from a message that she had sent to her family that she's now gone on hunger strike. And the idea behind it is that she's protesting two various things. The first one is, and I'm going to directly quote her, the Islamic Republic's policy of delaying and neglecting medical care for sick inmates, which actually she herself is quite ill and needs medical treatment, but she's been denied medical treatment because she's refused to wear the hijab.
Right.
And the second, of course, is the policy of death or mandatory hijab for Iranian women. So those are the two things that she's protesting. And, again, we don't have too much information, but there was some reports of a prison warden who announced that, according to orders from higher authorities, sending her to the hospital without a headscarf was prohibited, and that's why they weren't actually allowing her to seek medical treatment. So there's actually reports of the fact that there's been officials who've admitted to the fact that they are withholding medical treatment from her simply because she's refusing to wear the headscarf.
Yeah.
And actually there was another report that I read, which I thought was really interesting. Again, I don't know how true this is, but I'm hoping this one's actually quite true. And there were reports of numerous women within the prison lobbying for her and chanting and screaming and trying to have their voices heard to try and get her medical treatment.
Right.
And I just thought, in the midst of a place like Evin prison, to hear, your fellow inmates trying to do whatever they can to get you any sort of help, I don't know, I found that to be so emotional.
What do we think of the efficacy of hunger strikes? Because it's been deployed a few times now. Nasreen Sotoudeh herself was on a hunger strike. Vahid Beheshti, we had the hunger strike in London this past year about trying to get the IRGC on the terrorist list. I mean, it did work in terms of bringing a lot of attention. It didn't work in terms of affecting policy. What do we feel about this?
Okay. I had to look into how hunger strike actually started and like what people used to do and the history of it. And it started in Ireland with people going on hunger strike at the doorstep of someone who was committing something, or government officials who they wanted to change and slowly it kind of got to other parts of the world, and mainly it was used by the suffragettes, so women chanting, like wanting more rights, basically. And historically it's worked. However, I'm not too sure how much it's going to work when it comes to the IRGC. And I'm not too sure if I would have made the same decision if I had so much say, and if I were those ladies who we just mentioned, and if I had this much influence and say when I came out. Like, I wouldn't maybe risk my life like that. I mean, it's very brave of them, but to put themselves in that situation,
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it certainly works in terms of getting, we're talking about her,
Yeah.
and we're talking about the conditions in Iran, and the worst thing would be for Narges Mohammadi, who's just won a Nobel Peace Prize, to disappear because at the hands of this regime detaining her and squashing her and suppressing her voice. So, I mean, on that sense, it's a powerful tool. I agree that I don't know. This regime hasn't shown any there's few examples of this kind of moving the dial, when it comes to the current government in Iran.
Actually, what I was going to say is that, it's considered to be effective in the sense that it gets media attention, or it gets public attention, or it gets, public support for the cause, that sort of thing. In that sense, it is effective. But in terms of actually affecting a decision, so in this case, is this going to have an impact on allowing her medical treatment? I actually think in this case it might, because the last thing that the Islamic Republic would want is for her to die as a result of the hunger strike. Now imagine what that would do. She's just won the Nobel Peace Prize. We just had the committee actually mention that they voiced their support for her. They're mentioning that she should be given proper medical aid, that sort of thing. So now, the way I'm looking at it is, the Islamic Republic doesn't want this turned into an even bigger thing, right?
Right. And if you remember, with Nasrin Sotoudeh, they eventually sent her home for a medical leave for a little bit or something, because the exact same thing they did. It was to the point where. Although I always wonder about that too, because, just when we said, they'll never execute Navid Afkari, he's become an international name, they executed him, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it's
we never know, but that's definitely one of the things from the efficacy of it.
It's very brave of them, but I'm afraid for them.
All right. Point number 4 for this roundtable, and this is the fourth one of the 4. And this is kind of a larger conversation I wanted to have, and maybe the main talking point I wanted to get to today, and that is, and it's sort of a difficult one to bring up, because it's a very complex relationship, I believe, that Iranians are currently having, as I observe and see amongst our own team, even, with what is going on in the world today. Let me try and say it's the increasingly bizarre position people of Iranian descent are finding themselves in amidst this war between Israel and Hamas, or maybe between those calling for a free Palestine and those not. And that is that there are a growing number of prominent and not prominent as well Iranians who are being accused of being Islamophobic, some of whom are Muslims, many of whom grew up under the Islamic Republic and are now being told you are Islamophobic because you are not siding with a particular side or with a particular idea. Fast forward to yesterday, or at least a couple of days ago in Toronto. There's been big rallies around the world, pro-Palestinian rallies, some of them free Palestine, some of them calling for a ceasefire. We've seen all of that. Some of them very powerful, some of them huge in numbers, some of them with friends of ours attending them. A couple of days ago, 2 or 3 days ago in Toronto, in the center of the city, there was a large group of presumably this was part of a Free Palestine rally, a large group of Muslim, predominantly if not entirely men, who began praying, who did a very public Muslim prayer in the streets of Toronto. And this elicited a number of sentiments from, particularly from Iranians, and including a couple of members of our team who said to me that they felt very triggered by this, this kind of, that particular language, that they saw that and they were like, isn't this what we left Iran? This is looks like the Friday prayer in the Islamic Republic, and we came to Canada, and now this is here. Now, one of the people who is speaking out against this is a Belgian MP of Iranian descent named Narges Mohammadi, who I don't know if it's because of her, because I suppose she's been supporting Israel or has said a few things in social media. She's somebody who's been defending herself, saying, I'm not, stop calling me an Islamophobe. So I want to read you the tweet, the X, whatever it is that she wrote about this. And I'm curious to hear what you two have to say in reaction to this. So this is what Narges Mohammadi, I don't feel like I'm telling tales out of school by reading this, because of course she tweeted this. This is a public post. This is the Belgian MP. She says, Allah Akbar in Toronto. Last night, she posted this yesterday, thousands of Muslims lined the streets of Toronto to pray together. This praying in the streets in large numbers is not as innocent as it seems. I know from experience in Iran and with Friday prayers by Islamists, it is a political and social message of power display. They want to show how powerful they are, for it should ever come to a confrontation with the West if necessary. They're proud of their Muslim brothers Hamas and stand united behind Islamists. Of course, you don't see any women among them, only men, and this is because of the strict gender apartheid that prevails in their religion. Wake up, world. What you allow under the guise of religious freedom has absolutely nothing to do with individual freedom, but with pure display of power. Now, those are the words of Narges Mohammadi. I know that there are people who disagree with what she said. You can go read the comments, and some of them very vociferously. Many others also saying they do agree. And what do you think of this, Pegah? This position that members of our team or someone like Daria is saying, I've seen this before, and what's happening here. And if this was, I want to go so far as to say, is if this was from a quote unquote Canadian who'd been in Canada for generations, we might say, you are expressing intolerance. You are being, you can't handle people coming from a different part of the world. This is somebody saying, I come from this part of the world and I'm freaked out by this. How do we respond to that?
So I think there's a couple of things, and I don't think it's even specific to just this incident or what's been happening right now. I think the first thing that we need to remember is distinguishing between extremism and a religion as a whole is essential to protecting our individual freedoms. So when someone, whether it's members of our team or even friends of mine who I have this conversation with regularly, tell me, why did we allow them to do this in the middle of downtown Toronto? Why are we allowing hundreds upon hundreds of...
We being the country of Canada.
We being the country of Canada,
right.
And more importantly, we being the Iranians who are residing here, who are voting, who are, active members of society. Why are we allowing this? The response that I always have is that, I think a lot of us left a country like the Islamic Republic of Iran to come to a place like Canada where we were afforded or awarded these rights. Under Section 2 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, we are all allowed as Canadians we're free to follow the religion of our choice. We're free and guaranteed, in fact, the freedom of thought, belief, and expression. And this is expression. And I think, don't get me wrong, I don't necessarily agree with each and every single person who was in attendance on Friday. I don't know many, if any of them. But I think if we're looking at this, big picture, I think we need to remember that at least in Canada or in the United States or in Europe or wherever else we may be, where we have these freedoms and we sometimes take them for granted. When situations like this come up, we forget that. And I think specifically Iranians who have lived in Iran for a period of time, who had to, bear the horrific whatever it may be that they dealt with under the Islamic Republic, they're blinded by their personal trauma. And I think it triggers them, like
they're
you mentioned.
Understandably traumatized.
Of course. And I appreciate and understand and empathize, but I have to say that, being here, just because you, a collective you, may have had some personal trauma, doesn't necessarily mean that you can paint everyone with the same paintbrush and say that someone of a specific religion is then associated with extremism and terrorism.
But
and
even more
else.
so, if I hear you correctly, isn't this what we're fighting for, freedom and democracy, for people to have the right to be able to express their religion, whatever it is, on the street if they want to or need to?
And not only religion, but so many other things. I mean, the entire basis of what we've been fighting for the last year and a half is to, come out from under the pressure.
Meaning the uprising in Iran.
Yes, meaning the uprising in Iran is to come out from underneath the pressure of this theocratic dictatorship that is holding us all at a chokehold for the last 40 some odd years.
Although that's partly the point, right?
But it's
that's
not.
the point that people are making.
That's the thing.
They're going, a family member of mine, a cousin of mine, when Muharram, that the month where they
month of mourning,
and there's a parade that happens, and when he saw that happening in Thornhill, in Richmond Hill, we got into this big fight because he was like, this shouldn't be allowed. And I was like, well, what do you mean it shouldn't be allowed?
Exactly.
I mean, we can't stop people from and he was like, no, you don't understand, you didn't grow up in Iran.
But that's the thing.
But that is the thing. I empathize with his position, right?
I
He's saying we came here
position.
to get away from the dictates of this of a theocracy, and now I feel like we're back in a theocracy.
This is where I have a problem with it. Individuals like your cousin, my family, so many other people who left Iran, they left Iran to get away from the Islamic Republic and the rule of the Islamic Republic. They did not necessarily leave a religion behind. We may not all be religious, we may not all have the same beliefs, that I completely understand. But the problem that I think the majority of Iranians have, and this is me speculating, please don't take me at my word here, this is just my opinion, I think that a lot of Iranians have a problem with the Islamic Republic and not Islam as a religion as a whole. So many of us may have friends, family members, whoever else, who believe in the religion but don't agree with the Islamic Republic.
What's funny is, I'm going to bring you in here first, and Raha, I don't mean to be excluding. Well, what's interesting is, I think for some, that trauma maybe is so deep that it does become associated with religion. This is, there were so many people posting and that I didn't want, but I was trying to see Iranians, what they were saying. This from someone named Farazam. I'm not even going to read their full names on Twitter. A word for the censors of the nation. They say you are Islamophobic. Yes, this person says, or she or he, I have a phobia and trauma about Islam and its supporters. Go live in the Middle East and Iran and understand what is going on in your country. This is the reaction of somebody. This is another person, Bahar. He says, this really is a question for me, Mr. Trudeau. That's our Prime Minister in Canada. Why do you allow these people with covered faces to roam the streets in Canada? Yesterday, I felt like I was walking the streets of Afghanistan, not Canada. My sense of security is gone. I went through a lot to come to Canada just to feel safe. The freedom we've given these terrorists has taken away my freedom and security and safety. This is Canada, not Mecca or Afghanistan. What kind of mess have we created here? What kind of Canadian citizens are these? I tried to look up the definition of Islamophobia in Encyclopedia Britannica is fear, hatred, and discrimination against practitioners of Islam or the Islamic religion as a whole. In some ways, it may be an apt description of some Iranians who want to say I'm not Islam, but for reasons of, and there are many people, academics who have painfully tried to explain that the Islamic Republic of Iran is not Islam.
Yes.
But as long as that's the association for some people who've literally escaped that, then fear, hatred, discrimination is at least understandable.
Yeah.
But but confusing.
It's very confusing.
Raha.
I'm just going to say one more thing.
Resonant. She's resonant, Raha.
And I think the way that we keep saying, the Islamic Republic and Iranians or Iran are two separate things, we need to remember that the Islamic Republic and Islam as a religion are also two very different things. The Islamic Republic
but we both know people. But we both know people who come in here and would argue that.
I understand that, but I think
just to make sure that
to note that the Islamic Republic uses Islam as a tool.
I feel like we need to look at the context that this is happening in. This is not just a normal situation that we're in. It's not like everything's beautiful and they've decided to just come into the streets and have a prayer there. There is a conflict that is very much not religious or not related to any religion, and they are making it religious. Like they're by coming into the streets and praying like this, what kind of image are they putting out? What is this? Like, what does this mean when you're looking when you're scrolling on the internet, when you're scrolling in your social media and you see this image? What comes to your head? Do you think oh, how nice, they have a clear message of, okay, ceasefire on Palestine, or like,
why can't it be that?
I don't think that's it. Because
but why not? Maybe that is it for some people.
But they weren't talking. They were just praying. There were like rows and rows of men. As
we believe in our religion, we're expressing it, and we're
why the point. The problem is humanitarian. The problem is not religious. No one came out and said, let's wipe out all the Muslims in the world. They're fighting over land. They're fighting over power. Why should you come to the streets and pray and not and the point is to.
Well, there are people saying let's wipe out the Muslims.
Sorry.
There are people who have said let's wipe out the Muslims.
Mm-hmm. I know, but that kind of discrimination, that kind of Islamophobia, where people in fact are losing their jobs. I mean, we've certainly talked about people losing their jobs for being anti-Semitic, or people are also losing their jobs or getting attacked for being pro-Palestinian. That it's very heated.
You have them calling out for deportation of everyone who was there that day praying. I mean, when you look at it, when we paint everyone with the same paintbrush and we say, everyone who was there in that video should be deported. I mean, if you look at the tweets,
no, that's very extreme, and I don't think like that. I just don't think that there was a point in doing that. I don't think it served any good for Islam, and I feel like to some extent it kind of even boldened the conflict, because.
Do you believe that Daria Safai goes too far by saying this is what was the part where she says, I know from my experience it's political and social message, this is a power display, this is not an innocent expression of religion?
To some extent, I feel like she's being very extreme with her tweet or X or whatever it is, but I don't think that she's entirely wrong. I feel like people who went to the streets and were chanting, ceasefire or stop whatever you're doing, that makes sense. This is kind of like we're making it personal to a religion, and we're gonna start the jihad, because I don't know. But ultimately, this is the image that I'm getting from it.
Ultimately, in a country like Canada, our freedom to protest, our freedom of speech, our freedom to have thought, belief, expression, all of that is protected. That's the point. Regardless
but also it's not.
Regardless if it's
not. You know that you can't go out and say
of course
certain things.
I understand that. But when we're comparing, a peaceful protest where you're just marching and completely silent, or you have rows and rows of people praying, technically both of them are protected. You are not doing harm to anyone. You are not saying anything derogatory. You are peaceful. You're, all of these things that we both know. We all know.
Let me just clarify once again for anybody who. This is and this is way too big for us to comprehensively or maybe even credibly deal with in a little podcast here. But this is not about assigning what's right and wrong in terms of what's happening around the world or in the streets of Toronto. But my impetus for bringing this up is to talk about where I see there's a cleavage occurring in the Iranian community. Mm-hmm. Because it is so confusing Again, I mean, this time last year, everybody was on the same side against, we want to get rid of the regime. Now it's, I definitely see different camps where it's, are you kidding? We believe in the oppressed people of Palestine. We have to support them. Or are you kidding? Of course we have to side with Israel. That's been our ally in terms of being against this regime that we've been all fighting against. So, and in some ways, that division is greater than I've ever seen it.
But I don't even think it's about that anymore. I think since a couple of days ago, with this video having gone viral, at least this is what I'm seeing.
Which video is that?
The
prayer?
In Toronto with the prayer. I think more than, the Iranians that I see on social media choosing now a side, they're just voicing their concern and opinion for what this video was showing. I don't even think it's about the bigger cause anymore.
About the Middle East.
No, it's not even about the Middle East anymore. It's just the topic has now shifted to, why was this allowed? Why are we allowing this? Why let, quote unquote, these people show protest in this manner? And it's the same thing that we see every year, at least in Toronto, when we have Muharram take place and we see, the parade going down Yonge Street and everything else. Every year, Iranians in Toronto are divided once again over the fact of why that's allowed and whether it should be or it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not for it. I'm sorry, but because I'm also traumatized from whatever that was happening in that country, and me and all the women in my family have been oppressed in one way or another, and seeing things like this really triggers me. And I feel it's very, very deep, to the point that I feel like, exactly as you said, Jian, we fled that country for a reason, and the beliefs that we fled from are embedded in many of these people, and if they were in power, they would actually do the same thing that they did in Iran. So when I see this, I ask myself, what's the point of this? What's the point? What are you trying to prove? Do you see any Christians coming into the streets and praying to Jesus and the Holy Father?
Yes, we do.
Actually,
yes.
I've never seen that.
No, you do see
you
that.
do see
Just
that.
go to the Eaton Center. And there's somebody outside saying...
Exactly.
You don't see you don't see tens and
but the point isn't even whether or not we see them. This is
as
the
a
thing.
protest.
I just want to clarify this one more time, because I know we're going to get a lot of comments about this because I'm defending this position. But I want to clarify again. It's not about the individuals on Friday. It's not about, me saying that I side with one side versus the other. It's not about any of that. It's about the fact that, as you said, you, me, and many other Iranians left Iran to be in a country that allows us the opportunity to be able to express ourselves, to have beliefs and all of that, without having someone execute you, torture you, put you in prison, tell you what to wear, rape you, beat you, throw you in a van, and everything else that we've seen for the last, 40 some odd years in Iran and in so many other places in the Middle East. The point is that if we start to point fingers because of our own personal traumas and start to pinpoint people and say, this shouldn't be allowed, then at some point we're removing all of those same things that we came here for.
But just again, when I made that exact point, look, the part of living in a country where we're fighting for freedom of expression and freedom of assembly, is allowing it to happen when you don't like it to happen. One of our team members sent me, okay, here's some comments somebody sent you that were in Persian, and then he translated them. One of them, this is again from X, somebody posting, you immigrated from Iran to Toronto to have fun, but we turned Toronto into Hosseinieh.
Yeah, see, there's always going to be people like that who are going to try and take it to the extreme level, which is why I said I think extremism and religion, you have to understand that they're two separate things. It's ideology versus religion. It's not, it becomes really difficult when you have people like that say things to that extreme level. But what's important to remember is that is the extreme. Those are extremists. Yeah. Right. You have extremists in absolutely everything. With tea drinkers, you have extremists.
How dare you?
Right? So that's the difference.
No herbal tea. That's
no herbal tea.
The same person who's now arguing for nuance and freedom was the person who said no herbal tea. I
drink peppermint tea.
Listen, I'm really curious. I mean, we will not... I'm not going to we'll probably just erase comments or block comments that just want to yell profanities at us. But if you, or yell profanities about another side or however it is, but if you have something you want to say that on this, I'd love to hear from you, and we'll read the letters and we'll talk about this and bring people on to talk about it, because it is a very, very complex issue. You're right, it's not new. It didn't start with this prayer.
Absolutely not.
It is an issue for people who've migrated and then go, some of the we like the that we migrated and we've got access to saffron here now, and and you can buy a samovar at the Toronto village there, but we didn't want to migrate all of this stuff too, and others who are saying, look, this is part of living in a free society. It's what comes with the territory, right? Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no.
I just wanted to talk about a personal experience that I had in Canada, which had a very big effect on my view of this conflict right now. So when I was in high school, I used to be close with this girl who was Pakistani, and she would always wear like full-on sleeves and everything. She didn't wear hijab or anything. But one day we went to the park, and by mistake, like I think her hand got wet or something, and she just went and like pulled up her sleeve, and it was all cuts. Okay. So then I was like, what is this? Are you like trying to do something to yourself? And she said, yeah, my dad has not let me leave the house for the entire summer. And I'm not allowed to go anywhere with my friends. I'm not allowed to do anything. I'm only allowed to come to school. If he finds out that I'm here with you right now, he's going to kill me. And to see this in Canada was extremely upsetting to me, to even think that, there are families here in this country that are still practicing what we ultimately left that country for. And when I see images like this, in a situation like this, like I don't mind Ashura Tasua or Muharram, people can practice what they want, and that's total freedom. I have Muslims in my family whom I respect, and they can do whatever they want. But when it comes to a conflict like Palestine and Israel, and when you're trying to protest, I don't think making it religious is the right way to go. I don't think demonstrating this helps the conflict. I think it increases the conflict by separating the narrative even more, because every conflict comes from two different narratives that are developing, right? We can't see eye to eye because we can't come to a common ground. You have your own narrative and I have my own narrative. Okay. But I think that's not helping.
Just to end things on a lighter note, I actually did some additional research, because we keep going back and forth with tweet and X and all of that. Did you know that now,
what the hell do we call it?
When you put something out into this universe, it's called a Twix.
Oh.
Apparently.
I wonder how long will that sustain for? I stick to Instagram. Nice pictures.
Yeah. Nice captions.
Put captions. Yeah. Thank you so much, you guys. I'm very curious to see the debate that emerges from some of the most controversial things that have been said today, and that is about tea.
Yes, exactly.
Let's face it, these things are very, very heated. Whether we're going to allow herbal tea to be served as part of our Mehmooni or not. Bessa Boulor joins me for our talk about tea and Iranian obsession on Thursday. We'll also have a roundup on Thursday. We'll talk about some of what we talked about today, and if there's any letters that come in that we think are really powerful, we'll read them. So go ahead and send them at info@roqemedia.com, or of course you can post on our platforms. Thank you, Smart Pegah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Resonant Raha.
Thank you.
The triple R. And thank you all out there. This is Full Time for Roqe for today. Our website, roqemedia.com. Thanks to the amazing team who put this show together.
Today's a day.
Thanks to you never know. There it is. Thanks to the amazing team who put this show together. Super Parisa, talented Anahita, savvy Roham, bearded Omid, Methodical Kaveh, and of course Smart Pegah and Resonant Raha. Thank you to all of you out there for supporting us and sharing our content. Please do subscribe if you haven't done so already. And remember, for all things Roqe related, that website, roqemedia.com, is where you can go to our previous episodes, our videos, our funnies, our images, our explanations, and also a way to support us by pressing the Support Us button. We really appreciate it. If you become a Roqe member on Patreon, just press that Support Us button and it takes you where it needs to take you. Find me on Instagram at Jian Ghomeshi. Thank you so much again. See you Thursday. Mizun Machine.